deal with McGregor after he has his time with the law. So Dana White spoke with TMZ Sports regarding, that was my best effort at a headline segue there. TMZ Sports regarding Conor McGregor, quote, he's got to be punished by the law first. Let's see what happens in New York. So, I mean, I still feel, honestly, I understand that the UFC has punished Conor McGregor in the past, the whole water bottle thing. But I don't know. I feel like in my head, what I envision happening with Conor McGregor is he's going to be acquitted of all legal ramifications, and we're going to hear a fight announcement in the next few months, maybe even the next week or two after all the legal ramifications have wrapped up. That's what I see.
The reason I kind of chuckled as you were reading that is, it's like, you know, a quick, like literally 5-second clip of TMZ as Dana White is getting into his car after eating lunch, you know, and then like a headline comes out and we're treating it like it's like, oh man, let's dissect this. The UFC is going to deal with Conor. Like, you know what that answer was? That was Dana saying, yeah, we'll deal with him after. He's got to go through the law first. And that was what he said back last month when this whole thing happened. So it's funny, and I guess you hear me say this from time to time on this podcast, is like, there's no real news here. I mean, Dana White was just, you know, some TMZ camera got shoved in his face and like, what are you going to do about Conor McGregor? He's like, well, we'll deal with it, you know, when he's done with the law. Like, of course they will. And I really don't have a whole lot to say about this because there hasn't been a whole lot of development. I'm with you. I believe that at the end of the day, he'll enter a plea deal with the prosecution in New York. He will have, you know, probably a suspended sentence of some sort, you know, some community service probably. And he will avoid jail time, you know, and then the pressure will be on the UFC to do something. And that pressure will be real. And even from standing here from my standpoint, I mean, the UFC, you need to do something about this. You have to punish him somehow. But I think standing here today, the most likely thing that's going to happen is we're going to see some sort of like quote unquote punishment, you know, where the UFC is like, oh, we're going to suspend you for such and such amount of time when, you know, behind the scenes they know that, oh, you're going to fight after this point anyway, or we're going to fine you, but hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, we're going to throw you that money back. You know, I think publicly the UFC needs to figure out a way to say, hey, yeah, we punish this guy, but Arda, at the end of the day, you know as well as I do, and you just said it yourself, they can't punish this guy. And as much as you and I and everybody else want them to, and as they should, and as much as I think it may even be a good thing for Conor McGregor to receive some real punishment, their hands are kind of tied. I mean, what are they going to do? Tell them they can't fight for the next year? In addition to crippling their financial income, they would also open themselves to, okay, well, Conor's now going to fight them legally to potentially get out of his contract because you can't force me to sit around for a year. I mean, those are that's the way the conversation trends once we get into real punishment that the UFC could give him. So, you know,
I agree with you 100%.
What can we say about this, man? We know where this is heading.
Conor McGregor, you are suspended for a year, retroactive to your last fight. Take that.
Exactly.
Similar circumstances, of course. I do want to ask you about a couple of quotes, though, regarding Conor and Khabib, because I thought that was interesting from Dana White and from his coach, Owen Roddy, as well. So regarding Conor versus Khabib, this is what Dana White said. If you do a fight that big, you got to do it in Vegas. Khabib will fight in Russia at some point, but it won't be that fight. Now, Owen Roddy has said regarding this fight something interesting that they spoke about after the Mayweather Conor McGregor boxing fight. Owen Roddy said, quote, Conor turned around to me just after the Mayweather fight and said, let's talk. There's talk of me fighting Khabib. I might do it in Russia. Then he says to me, we'll do it like Rocky. We'll go to Siberia and we'll train in the snow. He was serious, dead serious. Conor does mad things.
Yeah.
So do you think that fight is still that interesting to him, that if once all the dust settles, that would be his number one focus?
Yeah, I mean, I've always said that I am not part of the crowd that thinks Conor is, you know, quote unquote scared of Khabib. You know, I think he's probably smart enough to realize it's a tough matchup for him, but I don't think you get to be Conor McGregor in the situation that he's in and the fights that he's won and the way that he's won them if you don't think that you can go out and beat Khabib Nurmagomedov. I just don't think that that's possible for someone to reach that level and still be like, oh man, but I really better avoid Khabib. You know, like I said, I think he has to understand that it's a difficult, challenging fight, but he probably has a lot of confidence in certain things that he can do that Khabib can't stop. So I think that he's interested in the matchup. I think he would take the fight. As far as it being in Russia, I mean, look, it would be great to see Conor McGregor in Croke Park in Dublin, right? I mean, why haven't we seen that more? Well, the answer is that the logistics of it. It's not as easy as just saying, all right, we're going to drop the octagon down wherever we think the atmosphere would be best. I mean, there's time zones to consider. There's sponsorships. There's pay-per-view buys. There's all kinds of things that go into figuring out where you're going to put a big fight like that. And so for Dana to say, yeah, we have to do it in Vegas, that should surprise absolutely nobody. Where do most of the big fights for the UFC take place? Of course, it's in Vegas. It's where their entire infrastructure exists. So, yeah, I don't see these two fighting in Russia anytime soon. However, we know that the UFC has been working on Russia for quite a while. It's definitely a market that they are invested in and that they want to be in. If things go well and, through their experiences, they put on a few cards there, then yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. And how fantastic would that be, man? Conor McGregor in Russia would be something that, as a journalist, it would be one of the top things I could ever cover. But yeah, I mean, for the time being, Vegas is always the favorite. It's always the favorite. When there's a big fight, where's it going to take place? Oh, it's going to take place here, there. Dallas Cowboy Stadium. Remember when that was like this big thing? We were talking about Cowboy Stadium like every single week. Did they ever go there? No, because Vegas is it's just so easy for them, man, especially with a big fight like that.
And you can charge exorbitant prices in Vegas. You get the biggest gates of all time with under 20,000 people. So, of course, it makes financial sense. Our guest, Dylan Dennis, made a successful MMA debut. He got a toe-hold submission victory. Michael Bisping gave him his credit, but also said on his podcast that Dylan Dennis is a poor, second-hand, overwashed, hand-me-down version of Conor McGregor. Where do you land with Dylan Dennis? I know it's very early days, but he's already acting like the man he trains, helps train Conor McGregor. Where do you land on Dylan Dennis right now?
I thought it was a great pro debut, and I think what this shows is that people out there, and I mean, Mike, that's a fun comment. How much of it he actually believes, we'll never know. Mike says a whole lot of things, and he's very good at that, obviously. And where exactly he lands on Dylan Dennis, I'm not so sure that I believe that is his 100% genuine take. But what this showed to me is that people don't know what professional MMA debuts look like. I mean, they wanted to talk about how uncomfortable he looked on the feet. Please, everybody, go to some show. Find a regional MMA show in your area and go watch it and go look at what guys look like when they are 0-0 coming in to fight for the very first time. I mean, this is what it looks like. It looks a little awkward and it looks a little uncomfortable. But Dylan Dennis took a punch in this fight. I thought he responded to it well. He didn't wilt up. He didn't look, he wasn't blinking away the pain and thinking like, oh my God, I've never been touched like that before. He looked relatively comfortable to me. And then he got the fight to the ground in the means in which he could. I mean, he pulled guard. Did he go through there and execute some GSP well-timed double leg and throw an armbar on the guy? No, but he finished the guy in the first round. I was very impressed with him. I have high hopes for him. I also think that it is going to be difficult for him. I mean, he has done a great job of building up his name and building up haters and building up attention on himself. And that is awesome for your bankroll. It's not always awesome if you're developing your skills and you're under a microscope every single time. I mean, that can create a very difficult climate to try to develop as an MMA fighter. But I mean, he's doing a lot of things right, and he's got a lot of skill. I mean, you could see that right off the bat. So I got high hopes for him.
Oh.